There are new reports that the Flash movie has had its production delayed yet again. Along with these reports come the doubling down of the fact that Warner Brothers will no longer be doing any Batman or Superman movies with either Ben Affleck or Henry Cavill. In my opinion, this spells tragedy for the DC extended universe, and in this video, I want to break down why. This is the Nerdy News Rundown. Let's get you filled in. Before we get into this, I have to shout out Jonathan Wetzel, who got the nerd card question correct from my Dragon Ball video from yesterday. You definitely know your stuff when it comes to Dragon Ball. In fact, your answer was incredibly in-depth, and I appreciate you sharing the video out as well. We're going to do another nerd card question at the end of this video. Okay, so let's talk about what is going on here. You're going to see a ton of articles and videos posted today talking once again about the Henry Cavill Superman situation. This is all coming from a story that Variety ran yesterday, which really circled around the production of the Flash movie. Now, the Flash movie has had a ton of problems. It's lost multiple directors. It's had page one rewrites. It's stuck in literal production hell. And it would seem that what's going to happen with this movie is that it will be pushed yet again until 2019, which means the earliest we would see this film would be 2021. Now, within that report, there is a small part where they do say that the studio is rethinking and reevaluating how it's going to approach its superhero movies. It goes on to say that there are no plans to do a Superman movie or a Batman movie with either Henry Cavill or Ben Affleck. Now, that story is not exactly new. A couple of weeks ago, it made a big splash when people were talking about how Warner Brothers was not going to be doing any more movies with Henry Cavill. There had been negotiations for him to do a cameo in the Shazam movie. Those fell apart. And then there was, of course, the statement made by Cavill's management team, by Warner Brothers, and then that very cryptic, weird video by Henry Cavill with the Superman figure. The report from Variety yesterday does indicate that those were not rumors, that is actually what is going down. And I mean, I've been following a lot of different people that are like influencers or reporters talking about this, and they all are saying that even though they can't like come forward for sure about it, that Henry Cavill is likely done. Which totally sucks. A lot of people were very pumped about the Henry Cavill Superman situation, and when that story was happening a couple of weeks ago, it was a big indicator of how the internet felt about Henry Cavill in that role, and from what I saw, it seemed like people really wanted him to continue playing the Superman character. So unfortunately, it looks like that's not going to happen. Now, all of this has to do with the restructuring of Warner Brothers and of DC, and this all is because Walter Hamada is now running the show over there. There were massive restructurings because of what happened with Justice League, but even beyond that, with the AT&T buyout and merger, there's even more new management, new leaderships, just a whole big redoing of that company over there. But make no mistake, this does have a lot to do with the failure of Justice League in the box office. And I mean, just look at the movies that are currently in production for DC. I mean, you have Aquaman, which was technically way into production before Justice League ever came out. Then you have Wonder Woman 84, which makes sense to do because the Wonder Woman 1 movie was such a smash hit. You have the Shazam movie with Zachary Levi, but that film seems very different than the DC extended universe. It has a whole new tone. And then lastly, we have the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, which seems to have a different tone and, from what we understand, is not connected to the continuity that has thus been created with the DC films as of late. And as far as the other movies that are in production, in my mind, none of that other stuff counts. Even Suicide 2. I mean, DC has this terrible habit of getting us super excited, breaking all sorts of stories, talking about this movie's coming out, this movie's coming out, this movie's coming out. I mean, how long ago was The Rock announced as Black Adam? And we have never seen that man on screen in a DC movie ever. So it doesn't count. I don't believe you. Those are the only movies that are in production. And when you look at that, it's very clear that DC is fence sitting. I mean, they're doing movies with characters that were a part of the DCEU, and yet they are doing other movies that not only one of them is just not in the DCEU, but the Zachary Levi Shazam movie is tonally completely separate from what we have established so far, and it seems to be going off after a completely different audience. And to me, this is a mistake. In fact, it's a tragic mistake. I think what is going to happen is that the box office of Aquaman and the box office of Wonder Woman, and maybe even the box office of Shazam are going to be affected by the press that is coming out about Henry Cavill and about Ben Affleck. It's like a runaway train of bad PR. And part of the thing here is there's a narrative of them failing. There's a narrative of it all falling apart. And while this may not affect most casual viewers or casual audience members, there's this big group of hardcore comic book fans or even middle of the road hardcore fans that really drive the narrative of things online and sort of tell other people whether or not they should go check out these movies. And so because I think people's investment in the DCEU is going to be called into question as these other characters disappear and there's no clear-cut answer of what is the continuity and what they are doing as they move forward, there's going to be a lack of enthusiasm and excitement for these movies. I know it's a tough comparison to make, but when you look at what Marvel Studios is doing, I mean, the Marvel Studios is just a brand. I mean, the Marvel movies have become a thing so iconic. They have wide appeal and yet do target hardcore comic book fans directly. It's this beautiful thing. And even if one comes out that you're not super interested in, you are going to check it out because of the continuity that is created by that shared universe. And that's the whole point. It's investment. It's something that gets you super pumped. It's almost like a serialized television that takes place on the silver screen. And DC's attempt to do this and then patchwork fix job of the debacle that was Batman v Superman has just really left a bad taste in fans' mouth. Now, with it more or less being official that we're not getting Ben Affleck Batman, that Henry Cavill Superman is done, that Ezra Miller Flash is going to be delayed and might not ever happen at this point. I mean, the DCEU doesn't even exist. It's dead. And why would I go see an Aquaman movie and be super pumped about that character when I know he is in a continuity that no longer exists? And so that's the news out there, guys. I think it's pretty tragic, and that's kind of why I think that, but I definitely want to know what you think about this as well. Is it possible for DC to sort of rebound even though they will lose Cavill and Ben Affleck? Do they need to do a reboot? I mean, a lot of people thought the Flashpoint movie was going to be a soft reboot of sorts, a way for them to introduce new versions of these characters in their continuity, but with them pushing that back even further, it's less and less likely that that will happen. So whatever you were thinking about this crazy thing known as the DCEU, or maybe not known as the DCEU, because people say that's not even what it is, whatever you're thinking about it, let me know in the comment section below. All right, let's check that nerd card before we get out of here. I want to know, what is the name of the actor that plays Superman in the Arrowverse? The Arrowverse is, of course, the CW DC shows. They are absolutely dope, and we just saw a photograph of Black Suit Superman that will be taking place in the crossover this year. Yeah, what is the name of the actor that plays Superman in that universe? Answer that question in the comment section below. And that's gonna do it for the Tuesday show. Hope your week is chugging along at a good pace. Also, guys, I'm thinking about doing another fan chat today where we'll talk about the DC universe, how they could fix it, where they went wrong, just kind of a deep dive on that. Let me know in the comment section if you'd be interested in that. But either way, as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and nerdy day, and I will see you in the next video. That's the sound of heavenly iced espresso.